English did not come from one person. It changed little by little over many years. Many people helped to make it better and stronger. In this video, we will learn how English started and how it became the language we use today. Stay with us to discover its amazing story. The English language does not have just one father because it was not created by a single person. Instead, it developed slowly over many centuries, changing and evolving as different people, cultures, and historical events influenced it. The story of the English language begins a long time ago, around the 5th century, when different groups of people from Europe came to what is now called England. These people were the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, and they came from areas that are now Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands. They brought their own languages, which were similar to each other. Over time, these languages mixed together and created what we now call Old English. However, this Old English was very different from the English we speak today. If a modern English speaker tried to read or listen to Old English, they would not understand it at all, because many of the words, grammar rules, and pronunciation were completely different. One of the most famous pieces of literature from this time is an epic poem called Beowulf. It is a long story about a brave warrior named Beowulf who fights terrifying monsters, including a dragon. This poem gives us a glimpse into the language and culture of that time. At that time, most people in England spoke Old English, but Latin was the language of education, religion, and official documents. The Christian Church played a major role in education, and since church services and religious texts were in Latin, most educated people learned Latin instead of English. This meant that while people spoke Old English in their daily lives, important writings were not done in English. However, English continued to develop, and over time, it changed as new influences came from other languages. A major turning point in the history of English came in 1066, when England was invaded by the Normans, a group of people from France. This event is known as the Norman Conquest, and it changed the English language forever. After the Normans took control of England, French became the language of the ruling class, the government, and the courts. For the next 300 years, the English people were ruled by French-speaking kings and nobles. Because of this, many French words entered the English language, especially words related to law, food, fashion, and government. For example, words like court, judge, beef, pork, royal, and mansion all come from French. During this time, English was still spoken by common people, but it changed as it absorbed many French words. This period of English is called Middle English because it is the stage between Old English and Modern English. One of the most important figures from the Middle English period was Geoffrey Chaucer, who lived from 1343 to 1400. He is often called the father of English literature because he was one of the first writers to use English for serious storytelling at a time when most literature was written in Latin or French. His most famous work, The Canterbury Tales, is a collection of stories told by different characters who are traveling together on a pilgrimage. Each character tells a unique story, and through these stories, Chaucer gives us a picture of life in medieval England. Chaucer's decision to write in English helped make the language more popular and respected. Before him, Many people thought English was not good enough for serious writing, but his success showed that English could be used for literature, poetry, and storytelling. Because of Chaucer's contributions, English became more widely accepted as a literary language, and it continued to grow in importance. As time went on, English kept changing. By the 16th century, it had developed into what we call early modern English. One of the most famous figures from this time is William Shakespeare, who lived from 1564 to 1616. He is often called the father of modern English because he had a huge impact on the way English was used. Shakespeare introduced over 1,700 new words and phrases into the language, many of which we still use today. Some examples include all's well that ends well, break the ice, heart of gold, and wild goose chase. Before Shakespeare, English was not as rich or expressive, but he expanded its possibilities by playing with words, using new grammar structures, and writing in creative ways. His plays, such as Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, Macbeth, and Othello, are still read and performed all over the world. Shakespeare's influence on English is so strong that many people believe he helped shape the way we speak today. Another important figure in the history of the English language is John Wycliffe, who lived from 1320 to 1384. He is known as the father of English prose because he translated the Bible into English. Before Wycliffe's translation, almost all religious books were written in Latin, and ordinary people could not understand them. They had to rely on priests to read and explain religious texts. By translating the Bible into English, Wycliffe made it possible for more people to read and understand religious teachings on their own. This was a major step in making English a language of learning and education. His work influenced later translations of the Bible, including the King James Bible, which became one of the most famous English books of all time. As English continued to grow, scholars began to focus on organizing and standardizing the language. One of the most important scholars in this process was Samuel Johnson, who lived from 1709 to 1784. He wrote the first major English dictionary in 1755. Before his dictionary, people spelled words in many different ways, and there were no clear rules for how words should be used. Johnson's dictionary helped establish standard spellings and definitions, making English more structured and easier to learn. Another scholar, Noah Webster, helped shape American English by creating his own dictionary. He introduced spelling changes that made English simpler, which is why American English has some differences from British English. For example, he changed color to color and theater to theater. Another scholar, Robert Loth, wrote one of the first English grammar books, which helped people understand the correct way to use English. Over time, English kept borrowing words from different languages. Because England had a large empire and traded with many countries, English absorbed words from Latin, Greek, French, Spanish, Arabic, Hindi, Chinese, and many other languages. This made English one of the most diverse languages in the world. The Industrial Revolution in the 18th and 19th centuries introduced new words related to machines, science, and technology. In the 20th and 21st centuries, English became the most widely spoken language in the world, used for business, education, entertainment, and technology. Even though there is no single father of English, many people have played important roles in shaping it. Geoffrey Chaucer helped make English a respected literary language. William Shakespeare expanded its vocabulary and made it more expressive, and John Wycliffe helped make English more accessible by translating religious texts. Scholars like Samuel Johnson, Noah Webster, and Robert Loth helped standardize spelling, grammar, and pronunciation, making it easier to learn. English is always changing, and new words are added all the time. Today, English is spoken by millions of people around the world, and it continues to evolve with new influences. The journey of English is not over, and future generations will keep shaping it, just as people did in the past.